Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go over how to overhand serve a volleyball for beginners. This could also be called a standing float serve, but we are going to go over the basics and hopefully get you serving by the end. We're going to break down the overhand serve into two parts. We're going to do the toss and the arm swing. In my opinion, the toss of the serve is the most important part. And if that is not consistent, it's going to be really, really hard to serve the ball over the net. So, if you're right-handed, you're going to toss the ball with your left hand. If you're left-handed, you're going to toss the ball with your right hand. Like with passing, you want to make sure that your arm is straight out in front of you. You don't want to bend it, and you want to make sure that your wrist is flat. By flicking the wrist, that creates some different spin on the ball, and we just want to think about laying it up in front of us. One of the big things about a toss is to make sure that you're always tossing the ball in front of your hitting shoulder. So, if you're right-handed, you want to make sure that you're able to swing straight through the ball, staying upright, by tossing it in front of that shoulder. We don't want to be leaning one way or another or forward and back. We want to be upright and tall and be able to come straight through the ball when we're striking it. So to start, we're just going to work on our toss. If you look at my feet, my natural stance for serving is to have my right foot forward. And you'll notice that I have a slight triangle shape that's perfectly lined up with my hitting shoulder. This is a great tool to see if your toss is on target. So if you're left-handed, you want to start with your right foot slightly forward. And if you're right-handed, you want to start with your left foot slightly forward. We're going to work on the toss, and the goal is for it to land in this triangle right in front of our hitting shoulder. Perfect. You want to let it drop, and it's totally okay to spend time doing this, because once you get this dialed in, the rest of the serve is so much easier. Another thing to think about is the height of the toss. We want the toss, if we have our hitting arm fully extended, we want the toss to be about an arm and a half's length above our head. We don't need to toss it super high, because then the room for error gets a lot bigger. And we don't want to toss it low, because we want to make sure our arm is extended when we're hitting. If we toss it low, our elbow will be bent, and we don't want that. So let's aim for 1 to 2 arms lengths above our head with the toss. Once you've worked through your toss several times and you feel like it's super consistent, then we can think about the arm swing. The way I like to think about the arm swing is like a bow and arrow. When we're doing archery, we have the bow and we pull our arm back to release. It's a very similar concept with serving, and actually with hitting too. We want to have our elbow really drawn back, and we want it to be high at our ear, okay? A lot of people drop their elbow down here. It's really hard to get any type of power when your elbow's down. So we want to think bow and arrow, pull it back, elbow high. Once we're in this position, the only place that we have to go on the serve is forward. So I like to think bow and arrow to throw. And that's the motion that we want our arm to follow on the arm swing. On contact, we want to feel like we're giving the ball a super aggressive high five. Okay, so to do that, we need a nice big hand. We want contact on our palm, and we want to make sure our wrist is strong. We don't want to snap our wrist over top, because that's what gives the ball a lot of spin. By keeping the wrist really strong and big, contacting on the palm, that is what will give the ball a nice float when it comes across the net. And finally, when we're serving, we want to think about stopping our arm on contact. So by reaching high, strong wrist, and popping it at the top, we're going to give the ball a really nice trajectory and make it move, which is really tough for the passers. Now it's time to put it together, the toss with the arm swing. So the way I like to think about the rhythm of a float serve is to toss, step, swing. So this is what it should look like. As you'll notice, I'm starting with my arm back even before I toss. And the reason for that is after I toss, my arm only has one way to go, and that's forward. By starting with my arm down, I'll have to bring it back and then forward, and I'm losing a lot of time, which means that the ball has a chance to drop too far. So I always recommend starting with your arm up so that you can go out and get the ball. Another thing you'll notice is that every single time I'm serving, I'm taking a step. So as a lefty, I'm taking my step with my right foot. If you're right-handed, you want to take your step with your left foot. And the reason for that is you can really engage your core by taking that step, and it helps generate some momentum to help push the ball over the net. The important thing to think about though is if you're taking the step, your body is going to catch up with your toss. So you want to make sure that you're tossing it far enough in front of you so that your body can get there and you're not underneath the ball. Your hand position when you're hitting should be here every time. You want to be close to the ball with it slightly in front of you. So this is a good marker. You don't want to be too far under the ball like this, and you don't want to have it too far in front. So sometimes if you're not getting enough power, you might have tossed it too far behind you, or if you're missing in the net, the toss might be too far forward. So it's always a good idea to maybe film yourself when you're getting started to see what those errors might be. There are several common mistakes I see with beginner servers when they're first getting started. The first one is that they don't take a step, or they might even take a step with the wrong foot. Now as a lefty, if I'm stepping with my left, my whole body twists, which will throw off my entire serving rhythm. So it's always important to step with the opposite foot from your hitting hand. A second common mistake, and very common one, is revolving around the toss and an inconsistent toss, whether it be too far to the left or the right, too low, too far forward. You need to take time to develop a nice, consistent toss, because that makes all the difference in the world. And the third common mistake I see is people following through with their arm or snapping their wrist, and that brings the ball into the net. So always think really big hand, really strong wrist, and to stop on contact. So hopefully these serving tips will help you learn how to do a nice overhand serve. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know, because I love to help. But until then, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment to this video, and stay tuned for the next one. See ya.